French President Emmanuel Macron and the British Prime Minister Boris Johnson both spoke after the tragedy, and to talk a bit more about what they had to say, I'm joined on the set by France 24's Angela Diffley. Angela, let's start first with the UK. Does Britain have a plan for dealing with this migrant problem?
Well, probably the only successful plan will eventually be to try to smash these people smuggling networks. 5 people have been arrested overnight by the French authorities. That is, of course, much easier said than done. Why do so many people want to get to Britain? When you interview them, these people gathering in the north of France, these migrants, they say they have family in Britain and that they speak English and not French, and so they feel they have a better chance of making a life there. But this is an enormous problem for Britain. The Brexit referendum, much of the thinking behind it, many of those people who voted to leave the European Union said they wanted to take back control of Britain's borders, and this is spectacularly not happening. So for Boris Johnson, this is a major political problem. It's heart-wrenching to see scenes like that on the television, but it's also very difficult politically when migrants succeed in arriving on British shores. That is not what British people voted for when they voted for Brexit. So Britain has a number of options. It explored the idea of pushback, where they would push back boats from British waters into French waters. That is illegal under international law if it endangers the passengers on a boat, and these rickety boats almost certainly would have endangered the passengers. It's also exploring the idea of processing asylum applications in offshore places such as the Falkland Islands in the middle of the Atlantic. Even Rwanda is being considered. What was a possibility before, and is no longer a possibility now that Britain has left the European Union, was the Dublin III Accord, where there was an arrangement where if a migrant first visited another European country on the way to Britain, Britain could arrange for that migrant to be transferred. That's no longer an option.
What about from the French side? These bodies did wash up on the shores of Calais. What's France's plan of attack?
It's a very difficult political problem for France too, and ultimately the only way around this probably is to try to smash these people smuggling networks. France has a problem because it has to deliver some sort of humanitarian aid to these people, but also it doesn't want to create a magnet and attract more and more people. There is a sad pattern of events. What happens is that they gather in makeshift camps, local people in Calais. Their considerations must be taken into account by the French government. A lot of businesses are suffering in Calais because it has become a less attractive city to visit. And many local people are very worried at insalubrious makeshift camps on their doorstep. They're worried about who might be in them. Are they people? There are incidents of violence among the migrants. There's much for local people to worry about. So under pressure, local police have to evacuate the camps quite often. Then they take the migrants to temporary shelters now. That stopped and has now restarted. And then the idea is to take them to more permanent accommodation where they can have their asylum applications processed. Now, the problem is very many of these migrants do not want to go to those more permanent places because they're far away from Calais, and they don't want to be removed from Calais. They want to be as near as possible to Britain to take their chances again. Some people go to these centres, then escape or decide to leave, or simply won't board the buses. So this is a very tricky problem.
Angela, thank you for that. France 24's Angela Diffley.